Elon Musk's Boring Company has a secret. Deep in the ground underneath the Texas Gigafactory, Tesla is harnessing the power of the Boring Company to move vehicles in a way that you have never seen before. The thing about Elon Musk is that he has virtually zero self-control when it comes to blurting out important secrets about his many companies. He's literally been sued for this. But when it comes to the Boring Company, Elon is unusually tight-lipped about what they are up to. Clearly, they are up to something with this mysterious Giga Texas tunnel, and I think we might know what Elon isn't telling you about the Boring Company. Okay, so what we are looking at is the beginning phase of a Boring Company tunnel that will run from Tesla's Giga Texas factory underneath the relatively new toll road, Freeway 130, also known as the Pickle Parkway, which is not named after the food, it's named after J.J. Pickle, who was an Austin political representative from the mid-60s to the mid-90s. Fun fact. Anyway, the new tunnel goes from the southern tip of Giga Texas under the Pickle Parkway and into a parking lot. This parking lot is located on another large plot of land that mirrors the Gigafactory site on the other side of the road. The west side property is much smaller than the main lot and has so far only been used to hold shipping containers. What's really interesting here is that at the same time the Boring Company operation is getting underway, Tesla is in the process of two new construction projects, one at either end of the Boring Tunnel. On the Giga Texas side, Tesla has been hard at work on a massive expansion that will bring the south end of the factory all the way out to the edge of the retaining pond and the ring road that surrounds the plant. On the opposite side, Tesla has constructed a large warehouse building with a supercharging station outside, and adjacent to the warehouse, Tesla is laying down a massive parking lot to use for holding newly constructed vehicles as they wait for shipping. We know from Gigafactory Texas scholars like drone pilot Joe Tetmeyer that the southwest corner of the factory where the boring machine will surface is currently being transformed into a general assembly area for the Tesla Cybertruck and will probably be used for their next generation compact SUV as well. The general assembly for Model Y is further up towards the north point on the same side of the building. So by now it should be pretty clear why this new tunnel is being dug. It's a transit route directly from Tesla's general assembly wing of their Gigafactory over to the storage area where new vehicles are prepped, charged, and staged for final shipping. Now that begs the question, why does Tesla need an underground tunnel when they already have their own road that runs underneath the Pickle Parkway and connects the general assembly area to the staging ground parking lot? Okay, so the answer to the secret tunnel is two parts, really, because there are payoffs here for both Tesla and the Boring Company, and they really need to be looked at separately, or else this can get pretty confusing. So here it goes. Part 1, Tesla. So on the surface, it might appear stupid to replace a short drive on the road with a slightly shorter drive through a tunnel, but that's missing the point of Giga Texas. This is the largest vehicle manufacturing plant in the world, and right now it's only producing a few thousand Model Ys per week and maybe a handful of Cybertrucks. This is what, like 10% of the total volume that this factory will be capable of when it's brought up to full operating volume? They'll be producing the majority of North America's Model Y inventory, all of the Cybertrucks, and the new Redwood compact EV. When that time comes, there will be a constant parade of new vehicles streaming out of Giga Texas 24 hours a day, at which point, sending them all down the road and under the highway overpass isn't going to work so well, is it? And you can't just keep building more roads leading out of Giga Texas, but you can dig more tunnels. Do you see where we're going now? One tunnel from Giga Texas over to the staging lot is not particularly useful, but what about a series of tunnels all along the west side of the factory, linking the general assembly floor directly into the delivery lot? And not only can tunnels run side by side, but you can also stack them vertically. Obviously not too deep, but it's probably reasonable to have 2 or 3 layers of tunnel. And of course, because these are closed tunnels with no access from the public, Tesla can have all of these new cars driving themselves autonomously from one side to the other. Logistically, this should make the process of moving vehicles from production to delivery much, much cheaper, faster, and more efficient. Part 2, the Boring Company. Now, here's what the Boring Company stands to gain from this whole Giga Texas tunnel network. They get to flex. Hear me out. The beauty of the Giga Texas site is that the whole thing is owned by Elon Musk, and it's already zoned as an industrial manufacturing site. So, within reason, of course, the Boring Company can do pretty much anything they want. The only point where these gigatunnels would intersect with public land is obviously when they go underneath the highway. Through this area, the Pickle Parkway is running on top of a large berm of earth, so there's plenty of room to go underneath. And the Boring Company have plenty of experience now digging under roadways. They've run 2 tunnels under the highway at their Bastrop testing site, and they've crossed the street in Las Vegas 4 times now to connect their LV Convention Center loop with the nearby resorts World, Westgate, and Encore casinos. And there is one more significant benefit in play here. In this particular case, the Gigafactory is sitting on top of a subsurface material known as Austin Chalk, which is a medium hardness rock that is pretty much as good as it gets for underground tunneling. So we know that the Boring Company can dig under a roadway without causing any issues. Now, what else can they do? One major factor that sets the Giga Tunnel apart from other Boring Company projects is the appearance of Prufrock 3, the company's most advanced tunnel boring machine. So far, we've only seen the Mark III used to dig one small test tunnel at the Bastrop test site, while the Las Vegas operation has only seen Prufrock 1 and 2 used on site. Now, from what we've been able to gather, which is all fairly superficial evidence, admittedly, the performance of the Prufrock Mark II has been a bit of a letdown. According to the Boring Company, Prufrock 2 should be able to tunnel at a speed of 1 mile per week, which doesn't sound fast, but it would already make it the fastest tunnel boring machine in the world. Though, if we look at the time periods between seeing Prufrock dive and when it returns to the surface in Las Vegas, it's actually taking several weeks to cover distances of less than 1 mile. And the problem doesn't appear to be the actual cutting speed of the boring machine, but it's these long periods of inactivity that suggest Prufrock is actually breaking down and requiring maintenance much more frequently than you would expect. On the plus side, though, we've seen Prufrock 2 demonstrate one of its unique features very effectively. This is called porpoising. It means that the boring machine can launch from level ground and dig itself down into the earth to begin tunneling, and then at the end, the machine can dig itself back up to the surface again. The traditional way to launch a tunnel boring machine is to dig a pit down the required depth and launch the machine on a straight path. And then you also have to dig a pit at the end so the machine breaks through in a straight line as well and has to be lifted out. Prufrock 3 is an updated design that will hopefully alleviate the reliability issues with version 2, and according to the Boring Company, Prufrock 3 should be capable of digging much faster with an ambitious goal of hitting 7 miles per day. That's probably not going to happen anytime soon, but if Prufrock 3 is anywhere close to that ability, then we should see it launch and resurface at Giga Texas on the same day. Another interesting thing to note at the Giga Tunnel is the appearance of the hexagonal segments for the tunnel wall. To date, the Boring Company tunnels have used a standard rectangular tunnel segment. You can see that in the Las Vegas loop when you look at the seams in the tunnel walls. What's so great about hexagons? Well, for one, they look cool, but more importantly, the hexagonal walls allow for a faster, cheaper, and more efficient tunnel build. Let's talk about how this all works. This is one of those things that is simple on the outside and incredibly complex on the inside. So we're just going to look at tunnel boring from the exterior and ignore all of the advanced geological, environmental, and engineering considerations that need to be made. We all know this part of the boring machine, the cutting head. Most of the hard work actually goes on behind the giant earth grinder. Starting at the front, the cutting head loosens the earth and pulls it into the boring machine. This material is called spoil, and the reason for that is the cutting head is loaded with chemicals like industrial lubricants. If you look at this video of Elon Musk watching Prufrock surface, you can see all of the foam spurting out the front. Elon jokes about a foam party, but this foam is incredibly toxic. Even just inhaling the fumes can be dangerous. So any of the earth that passes through the cutting heads is now contaminated material, hence spoil. As the spoil collects behind the cutting head, it's being pulled up by a spinning auger system, and the spoil is deposited onto a conveyor belt. This carries the spoil back through the tunnel to a large machine on the surface that deposits it into a concrete bunker. Remember this for later. Now, as the cutting is being done at the front of the boring machine, the tunnel wall is being constructed at the rear. Those concrete wall segments that we saw earlier are pressed into the earth to form a ring of concrete. Once a ring segment is in place, the boring machine will use a group of pistons to push off from the tunnel wall and move the entire machine forward through the earth. Many boring machines use hydraulic pistons for this movement. The boring company wants to use electronic actuators. So it's kind of like a two-step process. Step 1 is push and cut. Step 2 is deploy the concrete segment to build the next ring of tunnel wall, and then repeat. So as the tunnel boring machine is moving forward, the spoil is being moved out the back through a conveyor belt, and the new tunnel wall segments are being brought in from the surface on a rail system. You maybe notice that there are two limiting factors in the speed at which a boring machine can make a tunnel, and it has nothing to do with the cutting head. There is the speed at which the wall segments can be laid and the amount of spoil that can be removed. I can tell you that the boring company has a solution to one problem. This is where the hexagons come in. So with a rectangular segmented wall, you have to build the tunnel one ring at a time, and each ring might consist of 6 or 8 segments that all need to be set in place before the pistons can push off and move the cutting head forward. Hexagon segments are a little different. Instead of making concentric rings, they create more of a staggered pattern with larger tiles. So it would only take 4 hexagons to create the circle, and because they are staggered, they could place 2 segments and then push, then 2 more segments and then push, and so on and so forth, instead of placing 6 segments before each push. So with hexagonal segments, you get more of a continuous movement of the tunnel boring machine. Another advantage to hexagons is that they can all be made identical. You might notice that when we talk about the rectangular segments, they're not true rectangles. Not all of the angles are 90 degrees. The sides have a bit of a slant to them, so not all the tiles are the same. But the hexagons can all be mass-produced from one concrete mold, making them more efficient to manufacture, hence they are cheaper and faster to obtain. It's the spoil where the boring company is going to face the biggest obstacle with their rapid tunneling idea. The faster you dig forward, the more spoil has to be dealt with in a shorter amount of time. Imagine tunneling 7 miles per day like what's promised for Prufrock 3. Imagine the amount of spoil that would need to come flying out of that tunnel as the machine pressed forward. It would be a constant stream of dirt and rock. The volume of it would be overwhelming. You would need an army of dump trucks and front-end loaders moving continuously to truck it all away before it buried the construction site, and then you can't just dump it into the river. This is hazardous waste after all. So what I'm getting at is the boring company has some great ideas, and they have the perfect testing ground to put those ideas in action at Giga, Texas. If we are right, and the plan is to build a giant network of short delivery tunnels underneath the Pickle Parkway, then the boring company has a lot of opportunity to hone their craft. Every time they dig a tunnel, they learn a little more about the process. They can do trial and error. It's not like Elon Musk is going to freak out if they test a new method and it doesn't work. Elon believes that failure is a key part of innovating, probably a sentiment that the owners of these Las Vegas casinos and convention centers do not share. I don't know what the boring company is actually doing at Giga, Texas, but I think it's definitely something worth keeping an eye on because it probably won't be boring.